I want to do an update about a few things that I think the Western media has been misleading and confusing. The first one is Chinese banks stopped taking payment from Russian banks, which is extremely misleading. Here, for example, the Business Insider, from the title you can hear, it says China's biggest banks are finally getting scared by the Western sanctions against Russia. So what it says is that major banks in China stopped taking payment from Russia because of the sanctions. That is extremely misleading. But I have to say, even the Chinese media reporting is confusing. Uh, so far, this is my understanding. There are four major banks in China: Industrial and Commercial Banks of China, Agriculture Bank of China, Bank of China, China Construction Bank. Out of the four banks, Agriculture Bank of China hasn't said anything. So it seems like a business as usual. It is the other three that has some issues now that they're working on: Industrial and the Commercial Bank of China, and the China Construction Bank. Now, Bank of China came out and said that they are continuing transactions between Russian and China banks if the bank's transaction is happening in yuan and ruble. The only thing that they are doing a temporary hold is dollar transactions. Now, Industry and Commercial Bank of China and the China's Construction Bank, those two banks are saying that they're temporarily on hold receiving transactions from Russian bank, but it is a temporary hold. What they're saying is that they are working with OFAC, which is the U.S. Office of Foreign Asset Control. They need clarification from Office of Foreign Asset Control. Now, Office of Foreign Asset Control has been a office that exists a long time, but unusually active for the past few years because of the sanctions towards Russia, towards China, etc. So they are the one who are setting the rules, and that's why the two banks, one is the Industry and Commercial Bank of China, the other is China Construction Banks, they need clarification from the Office of Foreign Assets Control. Now, they didn't say that, and I wonder whether it has something to do with the latest round of sanctions, this 500 sanctions the Biden administration put in place. I wonder whether that has some effect on them, and so they need additional clarification from OFAC. And so in any event, they made it clear it is temporary halt. And it sounds like they will continue to take payment from Russian banks as long as they are not dollar transactions. But they want to be clear from the OFAC. That is regarding these three banks. Now, Agriculture Bank of China never said anything. Quite possibly, they already no longer have any issues because they no longer taking any dollar transactions from Russian banks, or Russian banks already stopped paying in dollar to Agriculture Bank of China. The other thing, there's a lot of discussion in the Chinese media is that Russia still has dollar. Well, part of it is Russia still have U.S. Treasury bonds. Not many, but they still have some. And when they're selling them, of course, they get dollar. The other thing is the no secret that U.S. is still buying Russian oil. Now, of course, when U.S. buying Russian oil, they pay dollar. So it's not surprising that Russia still has dollar. And therefore, they are paying some of the payment to the Chinese banks using dollar. And that's not surprising. But when they do that, the Chinese banks are cautious because they are dollar transactions, just for that reason. In other words, these banks are not really stop accepting payment from Russia. They are either stop the payment from Russia only regarding payments on dollar, or they are trying to get clarification before they continue to receive payments from Russia. As I said, even the Chinese media, there's some confusion about that. So that's my understanding of the situation. The second thing are the two fishermen being killed in Jinmen, which is right outside the Xiamen. From the map, you can see it's very close. Actually, Jinmen is much closer to mainland than it's close to Taiwan. Now, exactly what happened is very unclear. Part of the reason is the Taiwan Coast Guard is not forthcoming. In the beginning, they said that they have a video footage about what happened, but they couldn't make it public because they need to give it to the investigators first. But then later they changed their story, said there wasn't any video footage because the people on boat was very busy and nobody took any film, which is not very convincing because it's highly unusual in those incidents because there's always a video footage whenever there's an accident happened. From the map, you can see the border is very unclear for the fishermen once they are out there fishing, right? It's water everywhere, and it's very hard for people to remember where the border is. And for that reason, fishermen from both sides has been pretty freely go over different places for fishing. And Coast Guard from both sides has not been strictly enforcing the rules from either side, which is why it is highly unusual that this time it's Coast Guard from Taiwan side has been very aggressive. One thing they did admit is that they hit the fishing boat. Why did they do that? That they haven't given any reason. But one thing is the tension is very high. The Biden administration so far has said that they are not getting involved, which possibly explain the softening tone from the Taiwan authority for the past couple of days. But we still don't know what happened. We only know 2 fishermen were drowned. And the Taiwan Coast Guard ship hit the fishing boat, and the boat turned, and the 4 fishermen was in the water, and 2 of them drowned. The 2 survivors did now came back to China and extremely unhappy. Like I said, they're saying that it is very common for fishermen from the Taiwan side to come to the mainland side to fishing, and nobody ever bothered them. But this time that they have been hit by the Coast Guard from Taiwan and causing 2 people killed. So this matter is something that got lots of attention. So I just want to present you the report I got from China. It's still ongoing, and the tension is high. There are lots of angry people. Netizens want to have a good explanation of what happened, and if the Coast Guard is the one to blame for this, taking responsibilities, then they want the people who are responsible for the whole events being held accountable. Families of the victims are being well compensated. That's the situation for now. The last thing I just want to update about the Chinese economy in general, because not long ago we see the stock market goes down and now it's coming back, etc. And of course there are different analysis, the doomsday scenario for China, etc. So I did talk to a prominent lawyer who has been working in China for many years, and because his position is sensitive, he declined an official interview, but he did write up a summary, which I think is a good summary about the Chinese economy. The Chinese stock market is not and never has been a barometer of the Chinese economy. Not a lot of national savings or household wealth is held in the stock market. It is not the major fundraising source for Chinese companies. This is very different from the US economy, where the performance of the stock market attracts the economy closely. But the stock market rout in China is a sign of lack of confidence and the loss of direction for investors, which the government will need to find ways to manage. Well, it seems like the government will find a way to manage it even in the short run. Continue. The real problem remains in the property market, and this will take another couple of years to sort out. Ultimately, it is believed that the government will stand behind the developers and banks to make sure there will be no systematic crisis with the banks, but the process will be painful. I think that's a consensus in the Chinese media. There is not a lot of room for fiscal stimulus given the size of the government debt already, so expect to see more fine-tuning and the use of the monetary tools. The Chinese government is saving the big bazooka for when the real needs arises, such as the US going into recession later this year. Chinese government is still betting this will happen, as the debt-financed growth in the US is not sustainable. Foreign investment will take a long time to recover, but China relies little on foreign capital anyway. It has the world's highest saving, so plenty of capital. And the only thing needed is to get companies to start investing and consumers spending again. This will require more confidence-boosting measures, and the propping up the stock market will help. The big bright spot is continuing technological transition and upgrade, especially continuing advances in EVs, batteries, green tech, AI, semiconductors, robotics, etc. Tech advances will lead to transformation of the manufacture and export sectors, but in the near term will be insufficient to offset the problems caused by property market. Population decline is a long-term problem for growth, but short-term impact is exaggerated. There is a structural unemployment and talent mismatch in China, with demand for technically skilled labor remains high. Long-term growth prospects remain good if China is able to lead the next tech and industrial revolution in critical sectors. This will cause more friction with the US and Europe, so geopolitical and trade tensions will continue to rise. So creating more robust domestic demand is key as foreign export market will becoming more challenging. I think that that's a pretty good summary of the Chinese economy. The Chinese economy foundation is solid, but there are some challenges, and the Chinese government clearly is fully aware of that. And is working on them. A lot of things are ongoing, and I'll be watching and keep you posted. If you like my content, please hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you.